Hey, so here's something special about me. I play Terraria on the Nintendo Switch. What this means is that my footage looks something like this. The only way around this is to zoom all the way in. Is it still a little blurry? Absolutely. But it looks a little better. So what if I just couldn't zoom out? Well, the basics don't change. Chop wood, die. Oh my god, I'm already feeling the effects. I love dying not even a minute into a playthrough. Okay, cave time. Dead end time. I instead decided to insect this tree, which paid off well, as under this giant tree was a giant colony of fungus, which was past the jellyfish down this little, oh goodness. Yeah, it's just a little annoying to have the vision of a smashed spider with cataracts, but that was to be expected. Back to the mushrooms, we kill this bat, and then this one. Oh, let me pretty basic legally blind caving from here though. A bit of life, a lot of gems, a bit of iron and platinum, and this, and a dart. Oh, great. Alone in a forest, at night, in the rain. Oh, never mind. Let me just place the torch underwater and call it a day. Yeah, I gave up pretty quickly on my first day of this, but I was back the next day. The problem? This recording was even shorter. The other problem? You're looking at it. And I'm in a hole. Typical. The left side of the world was a bit better though. Gotcha. And the pyramid I get, I hate my life. I hope we just take a second to slow down, make a cozy, pretty, ugly house. How you doing, Brian? Oh, great. Alright, let's get the boring crap out of the way. Yo, look at this planet! I found a cabin. It had shoes. I found a cabin. It had boots. I got my head ripped off my body. It was back to the Crimson with my plan now being to hurry and get an Undertaker to rush some progress. So, I did that, got some life too, before returning home and making a few more homes. Now that I had a weapon, I was eager to get our first boss, so I began on an arena to fight the Eye of Clutch. Let me sure this arena was built to last. Ow. So I went ahead and made it so big that you can't even see the second platform on screen. You know, come to think of it, I eventually finished that up, kind of. The second platform was never finished, but it was fine. It was time to fight the Eye of Cthulhu. Yeah, I'm not really sure how I thought I was going to summon it. So I was back to the underground to find a sus eye. I didn't find that, but I did find a grav potion and a newfound appreciation for the flying carpet after triggering a lava trap and proceeded to say, that's not my problem. Just for it to immediately become my problem. I used to love the flying carpet, but in recent times I find myself hating on it a bit too. I like this guy. My first island ends up giving me a balloon, which I much appreciate, and the second one gives me a magnet, which makes me sad. Man, I really want to fight a boss, because I gotta go underground again. Cloud, rubies, mirror, no! Wheelbarrow, boots. That's funny. Well, guess what, Mr. Hoplite? I'm ready. We might not be able to fight the eye yet, but I found rubies. And that means it's King Slime time. So I go and make a slime crown. Summon a cute little fairy. Summon a cute little fairy. She, he, we don't judge, led me a little bit deeper, found some more health and crimtane, so when I came back home, I was able to make a I slept outside until the morning where we fight our first boss, the King Slime, which was really easy. The challenge of this challenge takes a bit to affect bosses, because due to my I was able to keep the king on my screen without him bashing me. I still had to stay cautious of the spawn slimes, because getting hit by one of those could be catastrophic. Maybe, I don't know, it didn't happen. So with relative ease, the king is dead. That was fun. And maybe the next boss is going to be even more fun. As I lay in bed that night, I really got to take it all in. The beautiful scenery behind me, which has been a very enjoyable part of this playthrough. Getting to see all the gorgeous pixel sprites in their full glory, and oh my god, we got it. And another pair of boots. Finally, I feel free. So it is to the skies, where I get a Sky Fury, so cool. I didn't get anything else. So I bought some more torches and lit up my arena, and oh, I don't care. I then stood there like an idiot because I forgot that I summoned the boss because it wasn't on my screen immediately. It's fine though, this fight isn't too bad either, as it's another one I can mostly force to stay on my screen like King Slime. The danger is the minions, as they can just come barreling from off screen. The second phase is where things get a little bit more scary, especially as the eye's health whittles down and he gets more sporadic, and that's just spasmatism because support has arrived. This didn't really make the fight that much more difficult besides this hit he swooned me with, so one eye fell before the other. My next goal is to head to the jungle in an attempt to switch my build to a summoner would. However, since the game wants to make sure I have plenty of action-packed content, I get a goblin army instead. I didn't want to do this though, so I just went to go get some lava. If only my elevator was straight! I give up on that plan. So I just begin fighting it normally, which is kinda hell. I didn't die. I was basically reduced to a human pincushion where I regen just enough health to take another arrow from off screen, never quite dying. Eventually, I got sick of that, so I went to go get the lava again. Oh wow, the nurse and the merchant are just in a safety... God damn! That hole was responsible for all 3 of my deaths suffered this event, so I decided to stay away from it going forward. But since we're here. Then back home I made a very shabby lava trap, which, get this, didn't work. So I instead just hit the goblins through a wall with this cloud behind me. It only took like 3 hours and wasn't AFK, yay! Finally, with that finished, I went back to the original task at hand, fighting the Brain of Cthulhu. You know, like I said earlier. And in order to entertain this goal, I first needed to go to the jungle for some upgrades. I'm looking to get enough spores and stingers to make a snap thorn. So I'm on the enemy grind when Yeah, I found a boomstick. Don't mind if I do. On top of this, I had just enough to make a blade of grass, which should be more than enough to take out the brain. So I begin making an arena for the brain, which only gets interrupted every 5 seconds by some new enemy taking advantage of my blind spots. They also broke my brain, I guess. This was the first boss I was expecting to pose a bit of challenge, and the first couple seconds enforced this, with the creepers immediately forcing me back to the tunnel. However, once I got out of there, this first phase was nothing. I never had to leave my bottom platform, just had to run back and forth and watch where the brain was on the mini-map to see where the creepers were gonna head next. However, suddenly I had an epiphany. Am I gonna be able to see the clones? Yeah, I could. It was still a little rough near the end, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I just had to go from side to side again, so that's another one down. This allows for a couple cheap gear upgrades, so make a Deathbringer pick and some armor, and a meatball on accident. And now we're rushing Queen Bee. I'm already in the mood, so let's just go. There was a hive immediately underground with a hive, so I began to deck out the hive. My plan for this boss was that I just mostly run and jump around, but it proved to be a little bit more difficult. Even though I continued to expand my arena, bombing parts of the hive for more space. When that was all done, I broke the larva. And immediately, I realized my mistake. You see, with all the other bosses so far, I could force them to stay on my screen without too much danger. So Queen Bee likes to stay away from you, and she does crazy contact. So I was getting hit continually by Queen Bee, just zooming in and out from off screen or switching attacks. And speaking of attacks, the stinger attack is disorienting because you quickly lose position of the bee. But nothing even compares to the bee. Like, if you think I sound pressed now, you should have heard me here. It was something like, oh my god! I seriously thought this one was gonna be easy because I was only really thinking about the dashing, which I could track on the minimap, but nah, I'm dead to a dash too. After a bit of sitting and thinking, I decided to go for Skeletron tonight instead. I knew this one was going to require a lot of focus, but at least I was expecting it. So I rode my beautiful magic carpet to the dungeon, which, back on that, it's a very good accessory for this challenge, letting me fly over all the things I can't see and control my fall damage. Long term, I'd still rather have a sandstorm, but the carpet did really serve well in this challenge. We're here now, so I chopped down a couple trees for materials for a double-decker arena, which I luckily finished up before nightfall, even giving me time to put down some campfires and some rope, which I don't use. And things were off to a rough start. I was getting hurt a lot. The hands don't show up on the minimap, so I'm left in the dark about where they are. Kinda. I eventually began to get in the flow. Sure, they don't appear on the map, but his head does, obviously. And knowing where his head is tells you a lot, both where the hands may come into and come out of. So my strategy became to find the head, and if no hands, get ready to dodge. I knew I had to be doing something right when the fractured remains of one of his hands came spinning onto my screen. My primary strat for damaging the hands was to wait until Skeleton started spinning to shoot them in the air. This could be risky, but the results speak for themselves. From here, the fight was free, or at least it should have been. I threw so hard in the final phase, despite the fact that all I needed to do was make circles, like always, but I've been waiting until I saw the skulls on my screen to begin dodging, because that's what seems normal, but you know, I'm zoomed in. I need to be thinking about where they probably are, and what I mean by that is I need to just circle and not care about where they are. They're probably behind me. In between this and my next attempt, though, I set up a makeshift slab and I began to work on a desert pylon. 3 houses were the basic, the sand catcher, and the not suitable. How you doing, Bronson? Watch out for my serious upgrade, Skeletron. Silver bullets. Count your days. Okay, we passed the dungeon. And now we're fishing. What is happening? I didn't get anything. So yeah, let's act like none of that ever happened. Skeletron time. And it went much better this time. Both second and first phase. It's playing in the background. Okay, cool. I'm not really looking for anything in particular in the dungeon, just some bones, because we'll now be officially switching to Summoner. So yeah, here are all the skeletons I killed. But don't worry, we'll be back there very soon. For now, we'll finally be making our elevator straight and complete. This isn't even sped up. I'm also making sure to get plenty of obsidian for obsidian armor, making sure to grab a hellstone forge, because I always forget. I also thought I may as well get out of the way, so I started mining hellstone. This isn't even sped. I then crafted an imp staff, a spinal tap, and fought the brain to get enough samples for my obsidian armor.
Cool, we're Summoner now.
Oh, and look at that. Back to the dungeon again, where I found the bane of my existence, marking me as the first ever person to die to a blazing wheel. Also in the dungeon, I found a pre-built, state-of-the-art one. In order to complement this new machine, I began taking up farming. And now that we have our build, I guess it's time to fight the wall. And, well, I haven't been able to find a voodoo doll, so... How you doing, Brian? Unfortunate. Okay, before we start, take a guess as to how long this fight lasts. 5 seconds? Yep, ding ding. I immediately ran into a hill, which I couldn't see and got licked. I loaded into the world the next day, knowing I was going to need an arena. It was gonna suck to make, but the terrain was just unnavigatable, even with the minimap. So I hit up the Dryad for some more planter boxes for farming the wall. Then it was back to the jungle. I spent some time making some jungle houses, 4 of them this time, all of which were actually suitable. After that, I began on some tundra homes, just 3, ugly, they all look terrible. Okay, now it's back to the dungeon. I wanted a shadow key actually, which after killing this many entities, I opened the chest and got my key. Then it was to the fishing hole for fishing purposes. Then also for fishing purposes, the crimson, which I had to bomb my own hole for. Now in the underworld, I checked the left side for shadow chest before heading to the right side, getting more chests, and starting on an arena. This was hell. Demon sides were coming from off the screen constantly, so I decided I'd add a roof to keep the creatures out of it. Enemies would still spawn under the roof, but it did a good enough job. The arena concept was taking forever to actually execute. There was so much bombing, then draining the lava, then adding a roof. I was an hour in, and this was my progress. The digging was starting to get really annoying, especially with the enemies outside the walls trying to get in like the souls of the damned. So after a decently sized tunnel, I just began on a regular arena. Somehow this went way smoother. I began with the tunnel because of enemies, but it was like all of a sudden I was on peaceful mode once I began building a regular arena. I then went back to do a test attempt just to see what we were dealing with. The arena wasn't even finished yet. I'm glad I did this little run though, because it let me know what I need to watch out for in the real attempt. Here's the two things I noted. Leeches are gonna suck, and 2, I need to keep more distance than I was to make sure I don't get stun locked by the hungries. There was one thing I regretted from that practice though, which was that I popped my only Inferno potion, but it's fine. A blood moon happened, but I didn't get the shark tooth necklace, so it was time for attempt 3. The first one didn't count. I buff up, no Inferno, sad, doesn't matter. This tunnel kind of limited my damage in the first part of the fight, but it allowed me to take out the hungries and do enough damage. Originally, I was gonna remove the ceiling because it seemed a bit too cheesy, but then I was like, why? I don't know. Is it too cheesy? Maybe just because it's been so long since I've made an arena for this guy. I also had my lock-in beats going, so this was just a piece of cake. Though we almost died at the end because as we went over this hill, we flew and had our momentum stopped, which almost killed us, but luckily it didn't. Killing the wall puts us into the Great Lagging, another side effect of the Switch, the whole console that sparked this idea. But once my frames come back, I come home, stand on a table, and announce, well, I didn't announce anything, so I'll do it for me. This is the end of part 1. Part 2 and other projects are on the way. If you want to contribute to one of them, go link, pin, comment. Before anything, though, I'm gonna go outside.